This is DIY for Level 1, Standard 6-5R 2 through 3. We're going to be talking about action verbs. You are going to need a highlighter and also a pen. Okay, so an action verb is a word that describes what someone or something does. An action verb names an action, although not always a physical action. Some action verbs describe mental action. So again, action verbs show physical action or mental action. So let's look at our first example right here. Tyler swam faster than anyone else at camp. The action verb swam describes a physical action because you can physically swim. In our second example right here, it says Alicia calculated the score in her head. The verb calculated describes a mental action because she's calculating the score in her head. It's a mental thought. It's a mental action. Sometimes an action verb is followed by a direct object. A direct object receives the action of the verb. It answers the question what or whom after an action verb. So our example right here says Kelsey's soccer team won yesterday's game. The action verb won is followed by the direct object game, which answers the question what. In other words, you're going to read the sentence, Kelsey's soccer team won yesterday's game. You're going to find your verb or your action, which is won, and you're going to say won what? And the answer to that is that she won yesterday's game. So game is the direct object. Exercise 1 says draw 2 lines under the action verb in each sentence. I'm going to do 1 through 5 with you, and then you're going to do 6 through 12 by yourself. Let's first look at our example. It says Yellowstone National Park attracts many visitors. Attracts is our action, so they underlined it twice. Number 1 says Yellowstone covers more than 2 million acres of land. Our verb is covers. So we're going to underline it twice. Then we're going to move on to number 2. Its boundaries reach into 3 states. Reach is our verb, so we're going to underline it twice. If you're not sure how we got that, you can ask yourself this. Let's look back at number 1. When we read Yellowstone covers more than 2 million acres of land, ask yourself, who or what is the sentence talking about? Or you can ask yourself, who or what is the subject of the sentence? Yellowstone is our subject. So you can ask yourself, what is Yellowstone doing? Yellowstone is covering something. So covers is our action. Number 2, its boundaries reach into 3 states. What is our subject? Boundaries. Right? And what are the boundaries doing? They are reaching. So that's why we underlined reach twice. Now let's look at 3. The park features thousands of hot springs. What is our subject? Park. The park is doing what?
And elect the drivers to the office, elect the drivers to the office.
The park is featuring something. So features is our verb. Number 4, some hot springs shoot columns of water and steam into the air. What is our subject? Springs. And what are the springs doing? They're shooting columns of water. So shoot is our verb. Number 5, we call them geysers. We is our subject. What is we doing? We are calling them geysers. So call is our verb. Go ahead and do 6 through 12 by pausing your video and completing those numbers. Then turn to the next page. Alright, on this next page, we're going to be looking at indirect and direct objects. So, an indirect object can appear only in a sentence that has a direct object. In other words, if the sentence does not have a direct object, it will not have an indirect object either. Just as a direct object answers the question who or what after an action verb, an indirect object answers the questions to whom or for whom. An indirect object always comes before the direct object. So let's look at our first example. James bought Corey a cold drink. The direct object, Corey, answers the question, James brought a cold drink for whom? Now let's look at the second example. Naomi gives the class red pencils. The direct object, class, answers the question, Naomi gives red pencils to whom? So our exercise says, write DO in the blank of the italicized word if the italicized word is a direct object, or IO if it is an indirect object. Before we begin our exercise, I want you to highlight each word that is in italics. So number 1 is us. 2 is headaches. 3, brownies. 4, team. 5, us. 6, routine. 7, us. 8, ride. 9, dog. 10, autograph. 11, niece. 12, us. 13, shelter. 14, dollars. And 15, name. Okay. Now that we know which ones are italicized, I'm going to do 1 through 5 with you, and you're going to complete 6 through 15 by yourself. Okay, so number 1. My cousin Rita brought us fresh picked vegetables. Our verb, or our subject, is Rita. And what did Rita do? She brought. Okay. If we asked ourselves, what did Rita brought? The answer would be vegetables. Now, if we asked ourselves, to whom did Rita bring fresh vegetables? the answer would be us. Since we answered the question to whom, that means number 1 is an indirect object. It's supposed to be an O. Number 2, loud music gives my mother headaches. Our subject is music. Our verb is gives. If we ask ourselves, what gives, the answer would be headache. Since we're answering the question what, that means it's a direct object. Number 3, Janelle baked her family double chocolate brownies. Janelle is our subject. Baked is our verb. What did Janelle bake? Brownies. And that's our italicized word. So we answered the question what. So again, it's a direct object. Number 4, Louie's sister made the team a pitcher of lemonade. Sister is our subject. Made is our verb. Made what? Lemonade. Made lemonade for whom? The team. So since we answered for whom, it is an indirect object. Number 5, Ezra read us the newspaper from Mexico City. Ezra is our subject. Read is our verb. Read what? The newspaper. Read the newspaper to whom? Us. Since we answered to whom, that means it is an indirect object. Go ahead and complete 6 through 15. Make sure your name is up at the top of the page before turning into the basket.